Okay, good morning. I had no subject today to post as a video. No video was taken yesterday. It should have been. It's just I was too busy. But sometimes when you're kind of like, I don't have anything to post today, and you're like, well, I feel like I didn't complete my day. I've been up for a couple hours now, and it was just it's 7:45. Anyways, I was downstairs and I was making my coffee because Teresa had a procedure yesterday, and she's resting now. Nothing life-threatening, just something to preserve her life. Anyway, with that being said, I'm downstairs and I'm fixing up my coffee, and I heard a ding on my phone. And I was like, well, what the heck is this? Well, it's a ding from Messenger, and I was rather like, oh, okay, wonder what this is. So I look at Messenger, and it was kind of weird. It wasn't something that was was like from one of my friends or one of my YouTube subscribers, and it wasn't from the guy across the river, because he still sends me stuff from time to time, which, it's okay. It was from a GoFundMe site, and I generally have a great disdain for those things. There was a kid that was killed over here on a three-wheeler about 3 years ago or so, and first thing you hear about is the GoFundMe site to put this kid in the ground. They want to have a funeral. And well, I knew the kid, and I didn't know him well, but he was at the farm. He was brought there by someone else, and he was just a good kid. He seemed like a really good kid. Gave him a ride in one of the mowers, just zipped him around the yard a little bit, and he seemed quite thrilled because that was really cool. And then only a few weeks later, he was killed in this horrific accident. And first thing that happens is GoFundMe, GoFundMe, GoFundMe. Well, I was a little upset with it because this child had just died, and they had cremated him, which a cremation is like, $1,500. It's really not that expensive. And they had raised like $40,000 to on this GoFundMe site. So they cashed in pretty good on this kid's death. Now, that upsets me, because you know what? You should never try to profit from a child. You should never try to profit from a child's death. And when a child is killed, I think he was 12. I think he was 12. I'm pretty sure he was. When a child is killed and you're profiting from his death, that just detracts from the child, and it makes the step parent look like a piece of shit. And the step parent I knew was a piece of shit anyway, but it just didn't set well with me. And I thought, these GoFundMe cases or sites are really not meant to profit from the loss of a loved one like that was. And I should have reported it, because $1,500 to put a kid in the ground. If the person that received the money, he could have easily afforded $1,500 to cremate the child, and well, it wasn't even his responsibility. It was he was responsible for the death of the child, and in my opinion, because come on, three-wheelers were outlawed for sale in the United States back in the mid-'80s because people were getting killed big time. So when these machines are dangerous to operate, and they are dangerous to operate, any machine's dangerous to operate, but a three-wheeler was particularly dangerous. I remember when I was a kid, I had a pedal tricycle, and it would tip forward, and you'd fall off, and you'd scrape your knees and your elbows and your head, and you'd get back on, cry a little bit, get back on, and pedal around a little bit. But when you're going 40 miles an hour or so, and you fly into a disc harrow and disembowel yourself, and then die, that's pretty rough way to go. But I think it's the responsibility of the parent to actually, be smart enough not to allow the kid to be on a three-wheeler or, such nonsense. Now, I have a quad, four-wheeler, which is a much more stable platform, and I don't really let the kids, even as adults, use it, to be honest with you. Timothy uses it, but, he's 24 years old, and Joe will ride around on it because he's 18, but, they're adults, and they're a little more mature now that they can run this. But getting back to the GoFundMe site, I'm going to put a link in the description below here. This is for a guy who I talk to quite often, and I'm a little sad that he is in the condition that he is in. He has no farming background. He is actually a computer guy. He worked, I believe, I'm not even going to tell you, I think IBM. I'm not sure who he worked for, but he was a guy that worked in this computer field for his whole life. And I guess our connection is Chester County, Pennsylvania, because that's where he was raised and where he lived until Chester turned into the slum that it is today. It's amazing how they put up project homes and then wonder why it becomes a shithole, because low-income housing, no job prospects, or people that aren't willing to work, and then it just turns into a slum. Well, he moved away, and he moved to Maryland. He had a family with his first wife, and those kids are about the same age as Timothy, maybe a little older. Stephen is, how old is Stephen? Well, you have to look. Stephen Hardy is his name. He's been a subscriber of mine for many years. We've conversed back and forth quite regularly up until about December of last year, when all of a sudden, poof, he just stopped communicating. And, because of what I do, I don't reach out as often as I should to people that I kind of have a connection with. And I didn't reach out to him for several months, and I'm like, you know what? I wonder if I did something to upset Steve, because, it would be a month and we wouldn't talk to one another, and he always had some really good information. And I had some inquiries, because he has power boats. He doesn't use sailboats, but I had some inquiries about sailboats and stuff, that I was looking for a salvage boat when it had been in either a wreck or something like a hurricane. And he was right there with sending me pictures and emails and all these wonderful sailboat stuff, that I'm not in the market to buy a sailboat yet. It's a aspiration of mine to buy a sailboat, fix it up, and sail off into the sunset for a month or two, when my life becomes less hectic, which could happen sooner or later. I don't know, but I think it would really make a cool video series to start a channel of my sailboat dream and rebuild a sailboat. And Stephen was on board with this thing, no pun intended. So Stephen would send me these great, great deals. A sailboat that, if it was fixed up, it'd be worth $130,000. But it's damaged or it's been neglected, and they're for sale for $25,000, $30,000. They need to be, the deck would need to be sanded down and re-oiled. You don't varnish those, you oil them, I guess. I don't know that much about sailboats to know what you do to the mahogany decks, but he sent me some really nice photos of some really nice sailboats that were, in need of some love, which would be really cool to do. And I've actually found one now that I'm considering purchasing for $500 if I could Jew them down that far. As I would say, Jew them is not a derogatory term. It just means get the best deal. If you've ever, maybe it's a regional term, I don't know. But Stephen was on board with this thing, and in the spring he was sending me quite a few, because last December he had gone into surgery, a robotic surgery, and you can read that on the GoFundMe site, and and just learn a little bit about him. It's very vague. They don't say much about Stephen. I know a lot more about Stephen to know that he was an upstanding guy, and he sent me videos of the work that he did around his house with his little bobcat and stuff like that, and he's like, oh, I know it's not like what you're used to, but this is what I have, and I can appreciate that, because he just seemed like a really he's still alive. Don't get me wrong. He hasn't passed away yet, but he is not doing well at all. And at the end of the paragraph that is written in the GoFundMe site, it's from his cousin. Lucy, his wife, is taking care of him solely. I guess his savings is gone now because cancer will do that. He had rectal and colon cancer really bad, and basically he's on a bag, and there's nothing more that they can do for him other than he's very weak and he's going to pass away. I'm very sad to see this, and I don't do this. This is not something that you've ever seen on my channel before. And there have been people ask me to do this before for people that they know, but not people that I actually conversed with. And as you know, my sister passed away from breast cancer, and I felt that the ambulance chasers, the donators, people, donate your money to breast cancer research, when less than 2% of that money goes to actual research. The rest goes into the pockets of the organization that put the cancer donation gizmo together. It's really sad how that goes. So when this came through this morning, as I was making my coffee, I donated to him. I used my YouTube money. I donated what I felt was fair amount. You could probably see it there if you look. And I'd like the people that are watching this to actually go check it out and know that this is for funeral expenses, and to actually get his wife Lucy, some relief, because she is unable to work. She's taking care of her husband, which is a noble thing to do. She is Filipina, and if you know anything about Filipinas, they will drop anything and everything to do what is right for their husbands, wives, mothers, children, grandchildren, whatever. They're all about family. That's one thing that you should know about Filipinos. Filipinos is their family is what matters the most. And so to get Stephen a proper burial, a proper funeral, and to give Lucy some relief, I think that this is a noble GoFundMe site and a noble GoFundMe campaign. So even if you can only afford $1 or $2 or $5, every dollar counts. And there's a lot of people out here that are probably going to say, oh, one lonely farmer's begging. And I'm not begging. I'm just asking for a little human compassion for a man who is on his deathbed, and a wife that's taking very good care of him to get him comfortable till the time that he passes. A little bit of relief and a little peace of mind that when he is gone, that she doesn't have to worry about how she's going to get him buried and the medical bills that are mounting up, because as you know, when someone gets cancer like that, insurance companies become douchebags and they'll drop you. My sister went through this, and they ended up on insurance that was like $30,000 a year because the insurance company that she had when she was diagnosed with cancer was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, you'll be covered, and then when they realized that it was costing them too much money, they just said, sorry, we can no longer support your condition, which is disgusting. That is disgusting. So pray that Donald Trump gets that one straightened out before he's out of office. And I think he's working on it. Maybe he isn't. I don't know. I know Obama put us in a big bind with Obamacare, and that's more than likely what's going on with Stephen's healthcare, because he worked for a reputable company and he retired from there. So, it is what it is, as they say. So, anyways, I guess I've rambled on for 15 minutes, and you can take this for what it is or what it isn't, but. I could say that I would consider Stephen my friend, even though we never met in person, and his wife is, in dire straits, and she has no family here to help her with with Stephen, and she can't even get someone here because, as you know, the Philippines is a third world country, and they just don't allow people from third world countries into this country unless you're going to cross a border illegally. But when you need help as a family, and the government doesn't allow you to allow your family member to come in and help you with your dying husband, I think that's pretty disgusting. But anyways, I'm going to put the link in the description below. Go to it. Read it. I'm not saying donate. I'm just saying if you can, do it. Even if it's $1, come on. I donated what I felt was fair, for my friend, and I hope he passes with ease and no pain, because we all know that he's going to go. So, anyways, thanks for watching.